So, Defensecon is over, Free Fly is over, and the game is still in one of the most broken messes I have experienced since the 3.18 period of when I came back. And that's saying something because in 3.18, I didn't experience a whole lot of issues. But I have seen and heard, as well as experienced a lot of it myself, the amount of friction this patch has for its backers and players. I generally don't want to call this product a game yet. I always like to refer to it as a project. It is literally a passion project of passion projects. So every ship themselves is a work of art, full of passion, and the developers love it. But at the same time, the way that management has been going about just following marketing's deadlines, it has never worked out. Previous patches before 4.8 have been okay. They haven't been the greatest, but they at least still functioned. They were still playable relatively pretty well. Heck, I was living out of my mold to the point where it was like filthy, dirty bottles everywhere, and just like I've never had to claim that ship. And clearly something in 4.8 and even the hotfix that came in just seemed to have made it worse. And it wasn't even Free Fly's like problem either. Free Fly was delayed, and you know that's a big problem. So I want to just take this opportunity to just get everything off my chest, but also start a small little series of what I call the 4.8 Defensecon a post-mortem report. So here goes. Just going into 4.8, it was already clear that they were rushing. They were literally working until like 2 a.m. in the morning of the day, like the day after it was supposed to come out. They were already late. They were already struggling to sort of like figure out like what is the most viable product they can push out to live, but to try to make the deadline of Defensecon. To be honest, like, you can run a Defensecon sale and just like the first showing is the Ironclad. That is not a surprise. You can just give yourself another 2 or 3 days and just have the Ironclad in testing. People can go into PTU and try it out. Isn't that what PTU is for? To like test and catch these bugs. But the amount of bugs, these new ships, and we're gonna have to talk about like the way they've been pushing out ships that are straight to fly. Well, I do appreciate it. The concept sales are supposedly, for now, declared over. The Odin is the final one. There are no more concept ships, no more JPEGs. Now it's just .obj. Now it's just we're buying .objs at this point. So, yeah, good for us. I think they're in .obj, but that's a different tangent altogether because I need to actually myself start digging into the files. Yeah. But moving on. So, honestly, I do have to say that this was one of the most embarrassing and disappointing Invictus / Fleet Week / Defensecon. Heck, maybe that's just part of the branding of Drake. Things are just made out of, just put together from dreams and duct tape and a little bit of toilet paper. I don't know, but it's definitely not been a fun time. So I did enjoy several aspects of Defensecon. Overall, let's see here. The ships themselves that came out were not too bad. Like, in fact, the best surprise was the M80. You know, that ship grew on me really well. But it also did not feel very Origin in many aspects, so that was the only thing that threw me off. The Pitbull just seems like a great little project, a side project that went along with the Ironclad. I'm still kind of sad that it is not an infantry fighting vehicle. The Ironclad itself is great if it actually worked, and as I said before, we are definitely going to have to talk about how they're just going to start releasing straight to fly ships, because the last couple ships have been unacceptable, especially with how they're coming out. The M80 doesn't have as many bugs at all, except from the only glaring one I believe is it is falling out of hangars of the Polaris and Idris when you carry them. So luckily it's got its own bed, so it is self-sustaining for now, but hopefully we can get those in the future and get that fixed. I was correct that the Stingray did not come out, because if it was coming out on the same day as the M80, it would have been cannibalizing sales. Next, Tiburon. Tiburon was cool, but it's definitely not a ship that I recommend anyone to spend money on. It's too specialized, too focused, and it can't defend itself. The cannons and the lasers are only meant to deal with the larger targets, like Connie and up. And then we have to talk about the $5,000 elephant in the room, the Odin. Honestly, I mean, I am, a lot of my hopium on it is that they don't sell the concept. Like, let concepts go away and make the Odin something to look forward to in game. It is meant to be enjoyed by many people, and why not just make it as a dockyard ship like the Bengal to something for us to work towards? You make more money in the long run anyway when more people spend more time trying to build up to a goal. And while they're spending more time in your product, they're probably going to spend for paints, for glue, for paints, for ships, for furniture, for gear and everything, for smaller stuff, things that we can reach. Instead, I forgot about the Starlight. Yeah. But instead, it's just you basically literally invited the media and many of your critics to literally point out, look at that $5,000 ship, and they'll talk about all the bozos and the suckers that bought into it. Yeah. I'm not telling people who bought the ship are suckers. I cannot tell you how to spend your own money, but this is, I was really hoping that you didn't sell it. On top of sales, if you guys ever saw my old videos from last year, the Flight Blade situation, they're still there. I understand after that whole entire debacle, there was statements saying that, going forward in the future, the blades and everything will be, once you make future blades and you sell them, they'll be available day one in the game or shortly. Fine. I still don't like it, but fine. But if you're going to do that, you're doing the one thing I hate from literally tech companies and stores and shops that do this, and that is bundling. Why do you have to bundle these things with paints? These are amazing looking paints, guys. I love it. I want more Gladiator paints, and you had to put I had to put freaking bomb racks in front of it to artificially inflate the price. And I was like, I hate this so much. If it was blades, it would definitely be 100% not gonna buy. The only paint I bought was the Gladiator one, and I will admit it, because I love my Gladiator and I want more Gladiator paints, because we rarely get them. So yeah, but still, it's just the flight blades themselves can be an issue, especially when this game is still not in its final sort of settled form for flight and combat, because we don't know. Those blades right now only increase stats marginally, but there could be knock-on effects later down the road, that we have yet to foresee, and that greatly buys into the whole entire pay-to-win scenarios, like we have seen with testing with the Gladius. All right, so, and as I said, I forgot about the Starlight. the Starlight is great. It's a great little starter, well priced actually. In my opinion, $60 and below. Sorry, $60. Yeah, 60. Well priced, $60. Fine. A lot lines up with starters, advanced starter area, and definitely something to get people's feet wet into refueling. As I mentioned earlier in this diatribe, it's been tough. Like, clearly you had a goal to sell a lot of these ships alongside to highlight certain features. That is part of the marketing strategy. So for instance, the new mission, TSG, Tiburon, that's what you're selling it for. Next, Starlight to go with refueling, because obviously you had to get a smaller ship. Could you please get the Vulcan, by the way, guys? That'd be awesome. The Starlight is a great entry path to refueling, but clearly you guys, and I'm saying to CIG, clearly refueling is still up in the air and very incomplete. And that is why we are using NPCs as a sort of controlled test group to sort of like gauge how successful it is, what needs to be done. And honestly, this should have been in tech preview channels instead of pushing it to live. But hey, it is what it is. Technically, live is another test channel in the end anyway, since we are alpha. So, but even that, a lot of it doesn't work properly. With fuel tanks, with refueling, sometimes doesn't work. NPCs are not responding, as well as even the Starlight itself, with such a huge tank, doesn't seem to even fill up. It can only fill up a fighter or two before it needs to run back and get more. Like, that doesn't make sense at all. If you really want us to test it and stress test it, give us a little bit more to work with so we can do it more and more times without having to go back to, like, to do that and see what is a good balance. And next, moving on to interactions. Clearly, server stability is a massive issue. A lot of this stuff, especially with the Ironclad and falling through the Polaris and Perseus cargo grids, something is not working with the net coding or something with servers, because clearly every time we pass the server border, our command module falls right off during quantum. Polaris cargo grids and ramps and elevators don't seem to register that they are part of the same object containers, and we just fall right through and then we just become non-entities. And the only way to fix it is to basically backspace ourselves or find a chair, and that's not even a proper workaround. Docking that has been fairly working pretty well has been broken by the Ironclad. How is this not tested properly and delayed for? Because docking, we have a massive event where we need our bigger ships, and the bigger ships require docking. They don't have the luxury, apparently, to get an XL hangar at homes, which is kind of weird, guys. Why not? Like, and also, why does the Perseus even need a dock? It's a large ship. Just put it into a large hangar. So that's a small ranting tangent. Oh my god. So, yeah. Docking's broken. Clearly it's because you guys have been trying to work with docking with the Ironclad, and it's using the same exact sort of mechanism, but clearly something is not working properly in that, and it's causing massive issues. I've tried to put down a workaround, and with each passing day, and especially after the hotfix, it definitely has stopped working reliably, and the only way to get around it is making sure all the docking ports are occupied, and then calling ATC to get a hangar. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like we should have the option to select, do we want a hangar or do we want a docking port? As a Perseus, and also at Lepsky and Orison for larger ships. because the ships are just going to lie out in space, taking up server resources to keep them there until a ship cleanup. Yeah, it's just has been a very frustrating time for Star Citizen. I did not stream as much of Defensecon as I wanted to, because when I started it and I go in, the fact that I can't even leave Microtech properly, and then a friend of mine got server shard locked, I was just like, I don't think it's a good idea to promote this patch right now. I didn't even want to buy any of your new ships. I literally just bought a $10 upgrade to the M80, sorry, $20 upgrade to the M80 and the Gladiator paint, and then I think $10 for a few upgrades to the Mercury Star Runner. So yeah, and that's another thing too. The sales suck. The CCUs were pretty lackluster to not even worth mentioning. I also want to quickly highlight tactical strike groups. This is actually one of the better items that have appeared in this patch. It's fun. It actually helped. It actually encouraged us smaller groups to network and play with others. Overall, I had a great time discovering new segments of the community. I've even, joined their discords. It was great. It was nice to be able to find more groups to play with, but it didn't have to take this to sort of do something that social tools that could do much quicker. So I do hope that in the future that it will basically highlight the need for social tools as soon as possible. I understand it is coming, and we've seen it in the monthly reports that things are starting to get a move on, but just starting really. So yeah, clearly priorities were set on getting content out rather than user experience. So I don't know what difficulties are preventing you, what blockers are preventing you from advancing this further, but I do hope that they get solved soon. So tactical strike groups. So my main feedback regarding this mission is that it is probably a great starting point for a large group mission. So basically anyone from 8 to 20 people can do this, have a lot of fun, able to do large ship combat, coordinated attacks, calling out targets, and also forming different groups and all that. Despite all the massive instability that we experienced, getting people together, people falling through Perseuses, the hangar rearm refuel from the Tranquility not working 90% of the time. It's very it is very disappointing to that a lot of this stuff is really just adding so much friction between players and getting to the featured content. And I'm afraid that this will also just be left behind by the next one. We have Xenothreat and Siege of Orison coming, and we know what happens when CIG moves on to a new event. They just seem to just have very little resources and time to go back and try to fix things that would be broken due to knock-on effects, due to new updates to the server, to mechanics on that. And I really hope that whenever there's a big major patch, try to spend some time at least making sure the others function as intended, or at least get them close. So yeah, but overall though, I had a lot of fun. It was really good. I did enjoy it for the most part. It was great meeting new people. So that is definitely a highlight for 4.8 and Defensecon. So what grade do I give Defensecon and current state of 4.8 post hotfix? A D+. I think that's fitting. it's barely passable. And overall, the game is carried by the art department, the content creation department. But clearly, we can definitely tell this patch definitely really needed to be postponed, pushed back, or should have been tested much further, or to handle large server loads. Maybe it's because that you had the highest concurrent player count that you were not prepared for. But to be honest, as I said, I didn't want to be negative, but this clearly is very, like, we should have learned from 3.18, 3.19, and this year that this is very unacceptable. We expect, especially now that you have passed $1 billion mark in funding, that you've gotten all this press now, and this is what you're showing to all the people who wanted to test this, to all the people who are curious about this $1 billion funded game, you know? And you're only just giving more fuel for your critics and skeptics to basically claim that this is a scam. And to be honest, like, I'll understand people who do call this a scam. People who have backed this from like 12 years ago, I get it. Clearly, this has been pushed back way past where what's your expectations, and you have every right to call this a scam. The rest of us are going to have to go with probably calling this a grift, because, you know, I don't really think of it as a scam myself, because as a scam, I'm actually getting something back for my investments. I actually enjoy many times when it's working, this project. So please do better. And also, I will definitely put out a video on a couple of suggestions and things that CIG should definitely start focusing on going forward with 4.9, and what they need to and some pipeline development ideas for straight to fly ships. All right, that was it, guys. Thanks if you've listened to this far into the video. Please like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and I am so glad that a lot of you guys are starting to really, you know, follow my channels and catch me on Twitch as well. And I will also be streaming on YouTube. We held the line for this long, but I think we need to start holding our wallets.